Alright, everybody, let's talk about how to become a better communicator. 3 easy things you can do right now that's going to up your communication game to the master level. Now, it's very likely you've already heard of these things or you already do these things, but you might not know the science behind it or the psychology behind it. So paying the big bucks, paying the tuition fees, reading the textbooks, let me share you the 3 tips without pulling you along any further. Number 1, the number 1 thing you need to become a better communicator, because we think so often about the story that I have to say or the way I can use my tone and be captivating. The first thing is being a good listener. Why? Being a good listener is the fundamental, it's like the building block of becoming a conversationalist, of having people want to talk to you. Because nobody wants to talk to someone who can't listen and only wants to do the talking. So how do you become a good listener? Very easy tips. Ready? First of all, body language. You want to face the person who you're talking to, generally speaking. When you guys are facing each other, you're going to be a little bit more engaged. Now, you don't always have to. Think of the difference between sitting in a cafe, you're sitting across from each other, versus me and you are at a park somewhere. We're sitting on a park bench, and we're sitting side by side looking at the scenery. Both are fine. But when we're sitting across from each other, it's a little bit more intimate when we're looking into each other's eyes, right? It's the difference between talking to each other face to face versus on FaceTime versus just hearing your voice on the phone versus just texting you. So there's levels of intimacy. So the first thing to do to become a better communicator is to become a better listener. Well, how do I do that, Dan? Very good question. The first thing you do is you face people when you're talking to them. Now, culturally, there might be some differences, but at least in North America, look people in the eyes. And then when they say something, acknowledge that you've heard what they've said. This can be a sound, this can be a hum, this could be a word or a phrase. So if you tell me something, if you say, Daniel, I think pineapples are the kings of all fruits, I could look at you in silence, which is fine, or I could say, Or I could say, that's interesting. Or I could say, why? Or I could say, sounds like you like pineapples. Or, tell me more about that. Or, have you thought this through? Have you told anyone else this? So essentially, you tell them something based on what they've said, which tell them, hey, I'm following along. I'm listening to you. Here's an example of what not to do. Husband comes home from work and says, babe, you're not going to believe the work I had today. You're not going to believe the crazy, hectic day I had. And his wife goes, your day? Let me tell you about my day with the kids. Billy did this, and Jolly did this, and Sally did this, and I'm so tired. Well, what just happened? The husband just put an introductory thing out there like, hey, I'd like to tell you about the craziness of my day. And the wife, in this instance, completely turned it around and made it about herself. It's no difference than when you tell your friend, I haven't been doing too good. I hurt my lower back. Oh, you know what? Actually, my cousin's boyfriend's best friend also hurt his back one day. It was 3 weeks ago in the summer. It was in the afternoon. And what had happened was he was playing basketball. And you're sitting there going, I don't care. Right? Has this happened to people? I'm sure I'm not on my own, right? Or going back to the first point, when someone's not facing you, when someone's not engaged, you can tell. And you're telling someone a story and they're kind of like, yeah. Yeah, that's great. Wow. You can tell they're not there. So you face the person. You give them words of acknowledgement. Interesting. Tell me more. Oh, wow. Okay. And then what happened? When you say stuff like that, it keeps a person going. Great. The last thing you're going to do to become a good listener is you're going to summarize, or you're going to find the deeper meaning of what people tell you. We're having a conversation. And you say, Daniel, I love drawing. And I go, why? You go, well, it brings me a lot of peace, and my day is so hectic, and when I'm able to do drawing, it kind of takes all that stress away, and I'm able to just get lost in it. Well, I don't want to repeat what you said like a parrot. Oh, when you do drawing, it sounds like you get lost in it. What's the underlying meaning there? Like, if we've been talking for a while, and I'm oversimplifying drastically, but maybe I say something back like, oh, it sounds like drawing or painting is your way to kind of escape from the chaos. So even though you're on a ship and it's stormy out, This is like the hot chocolate that you're drinking on the boat. It's keeping you somewhat relaxed. That doesn't have to be that long or that wild or anything, but I'm telling you, hey, I'm listening to what you're saying. And I understand what you mean. And they'll correct me if I don't understand. They'll say, actually, no, Daniel, that's not what I mean at all. This is what I actually mean. So what did you do today? Oh, I exercised. Do you like exercising? Oh my God, I love it so much. I do it every single day. I couldn't live without it. Why do you exercise every day? Oh, I feel so good afterwards. I'm so proud of myself. It sounds like you're able to exercise a lot of self-control when you exercise. Yeah, man, absolutely. Yeah, it is self-control and it's discipline, and I pat myself on the... So you're giving them a little bit more now. So how to be a good listener? Those two are the fundamental building blocks. Face the person who you're talking to. Do not interrupt them when they're talking. Give them little things of acknowledgement like or a head nod or oh, that's interesting, which tells them you're following them along. Don't think in your head about what you want to say. Really listen to what they're saying. You can't be a great listener if you keep interrupting people when they're talking. And finally, the last thing is summarize. Give them a summary, give them an understanding of what they're saying. Look, Daniel, I understand what Sally did was wrong, but she's my best friend. We've been best friends for 13 years. I couldn't do that to her. Wow. It sounds like you really value loyalty above all else. That's all it is, folks. It's really simple. You don't have to look above and beyond. It's just reading in between the lines without literally being a parrot and giving them what they said word for word. Okay? So, want to be a better communicator? It starts with listening. 2 other things that are wonderful, just wonderful to take in. Now, this doesn't only pertain to communication, but really to relationships and how good communicating can enhance your relationships. All right? Number 2 is this. Praise things that you like and want to see more of. If someone does something and you enjoy it, tell them specifically what you enjoy about it, and the chance that they will do it again increases. Hey John, it's good to see you. Thank you for coming to meet me on this Sunday afternoon. They're like, oh yeah, I was happy to come after the gym. Whoa, you went to the gym before coming to meet me on your weekend? So yeah, I love doing that. Hey Jim, I applaud your discipline. Way to go. It's as simple as saying, look, this thing that you did, I noticed it. You didn't have to do it. You're taking care of your body. I'm thinking about self-respect and discipline and consistency. It probably wasn't easy. Hey, rock on. And guess what? My friend is more likely to do it again now. Basics, folks, of 40, 50 years ago. Have you heard of Pavlov and the dogs? The whole thing about he puts the food out and the dog comes and eats it, and then after a while he rings the bell and then the dog starts salivating and then blah, blah, blah. Anyways, I don't want to break it down for this video, but it's this idea of you tell a dog to do a trick. When they do it, you give them a treat. And once you do this 10, 15, 20 times, they begin to recognize, oh, when I follow my owner's instructions, I get a treat. I'm going to do this trick more often. Human beings are the same way, folks. Sally, when you finish your homework, I'll take you to the playground. If you're in a teaching position, let's say you're coaching a team of sorts. Let's say you're an instructor of sorts. When you see someone do something correctly, you tell them. Amanda, fantastic job with the save. Awesome. I love how quick you were. You saw your teammate was on the other side and you dove for it immediately. You did not hesitate. Well done. I'm praising you, and I'm telling you what exactly I'm praising you for. You love a cup of coffee. You love a cup of coffee. And your partner, without you asking, makes you a cup of coffee. Now, we have this thought that says, well, she should have to. Like, she's obligated to. Like, I wouldn't expect anything less. I don't love that attitude myself. And this is my own bias. Why? Partners differ. And you might have some well, you're a parent, you're a dad, you have to do this. I've seen a lot of dads that don't do things that are quote-unquote expected of them. Or wives, or husbands, or brothers, or sisters, or teachers. So I don't take any of that stuff for granted. Could you imagine? You wake up and you love coffee, you're just about to make yourself some, and then you see there's a cup of coffee for you. Or whatever, green tea, or hot chocolate, or your favorite drink. And then your partner just goes, hey, by the way, I made you a cup. I thought you'd like some. And then you turn to them and you go, hey, thank you for this. I didn't even have to ask, and you made me one of my favorite drinks. That's very thoughtful of you. That's very thoughtful of you. And when you say that in their head, folks, it feels good to get praised. You're like, oh, this is great. I want this to happen more often. So-and-so liked this. I'm going to do it more often. So praise, folks. Do not be lenient. Do not be hesitant to give out praise. If you see something you like, tell people. And they're going to do it more often. And be specific about it. You lose nothing. It makes the other person feel good, and they're going to want to do it more often. It makes you a better communicator, and they're going to want to enjoy spending more time with you. What is communication? It's transferring ideas, transferring thoughts. It's handling conflicts, finding resolutions, talking about things like praise and criticism. So when you see something that you like and you praise it and you make the other person know, hey, this thing that you did, I love. It's something I don't see enough of. And I really think we underestimate the power that praising has and what it could do for you and the lives of the people around you. So good people, when you can, when possible, if you like something, praise it. The last thing, because we talked about being a good listener, we talked about praising. The last thing is about conflict. If we do not like conflict, we will avoid it. If we avoid conflict, what happens to it? It doesn't just disappear. It actually gets worse. It's a little bit like a fire. If I look the other way and pretend I don't see it, I don't have to extinguish it. It's like, yeah, you don't have to extinguish that little fire. God knows what it's going to turn into a couple of minutes. So if you don't like conflict, if you are not a confrontational person, you need to embrace it as soon as you can. As soon as you can. Here's why. In life, in many aspects, we don't get to choose whether we engage in conflict or we do not engage in conflict. That is my personal experience. You may disagree. Fair enough. I believe what we get to choose is when we engage in the conflict. There's a fire. You have to extinguish it. It's in your room. Now it's up to you whether you want to extinguish it now while it's small, or just kind of not look away and pretend it's not there, and let's see what happens as time passes. That's up to you. So when I say conflict, what do I mean? If a friend, if a coworker, if someone does something that makes you upset, if someone does something that you don't like, that you don't agree with, a lot of people have this tendency, maybe out of politeness, to think, well, I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to let it slide. It's only going to happen once, right? And the problem is very much like praise. When someone does something and they look at the consequences and there is no consequence, like there is no criticism, the chances that they engage in that behavior increases. So if your partner comes in and they throw their clothes on the ground and you kind of look and you don't say anything, indirectly, your silence is saying, I tolerate that sort of behavior. And then guess what happens? They do it again and again and again. And then your resentment starts to build. You get angrier. And then when they throw their clothes down for the 9th time, you implode from the inside. And you speak to them in a very harsh tone. Why? Because your brain doesn't recognize this is the first time you're talking to them. This incident has occurred 9 times. But your brain doesn't realize, like it thinks, how many times have you done this? When this poor person has no idea that this upset you in the first place. So before the emotions start to build, before you've filled yourself with resentment and content, in the very beginning, you go to this person. And it's about learning how to communicate towards what I'd like to call conflict resolution. And this is so important. Oh my gosh, this is so important. The skill of how to criticize someone, how to resolve a conflict, how to come to a solution. We are on a team. What just happened, the thing that just happened here, makes me feel upset or angry or frustrated or annoyed. Okay? I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt and say, you didn't do that on purpose, nor did you know I felt that way. Thoughts? Oh, You didn't know I felt annoyed? Okay, great. Let's get that out there. Let me tell you about why I feel annoyed. When you do insert behavior, I feel whatever, insert emotion, because you can give you a reasoning. I just like the place to be organized, or whatever it may be. So the reason it's super important when we communicate, to communicate things that bother us at an early stage, is because the level of emotional intensity is relatively low. The longer we prolong, the longer this goes on of me not engaging in conflict, me not bringing this up, the more it builds up. And unfortunately, this idea of wanting to be polite, not say anything, and be considerate, it's actually not, I don't want to say it's not good, but it's not as helpful as we like to think it is. It would be far more helpful to the both of you and for your communication skills if we learned how to talk to people. Now, mind you, what I'm saying is extremely contextual. This stuff about criticizing someone, and you're going to sit down and you're going to share your perspective, and they're going to be like, wow, Daniel, I never thought of it like that. Thank you for enlightening me. I'm a different person. It doesn't work out like that. Especially when contexts are different. What if this person's your employer? And they're like, I couldn't care less about your opinion, but they say it in a professional way, right? Or what if it's a 14-year-old girl trying to have this conversation with her mom? You would imagine that it's harder for that 14-year-old to get the mom to take her as seriously, rather than you're talking to someone your own age or somewhere where there's not a power imbalance. It's not a child or parent or an employee and an employer. So we want to think about what makes us feel upset. We want to think about what makes us feel angry. We want to think why. And then when we tell this person, and I've said this a long time ago, it's important to differentiate the individual from the behavior. Like, I'm not mad at you. I'm not mad at you. I'm mad at this thing that happened. And those are super different. If I say I'm angry at you, it's your fault. I'm attacking you, and people are going to get more defensive. I'm not mad at you. You're a great person. If you weren't great, I wouldn't be dating you. And you do these 9 things that I love, that I think are so amazing, right? Because hopefully you've already watched my videos, so you've been praising them, right? You've been listening to them. You've been praising them. And with all that good, equity built up, with all that good credit, you come around, you go, look, you do these 9 things that I love so much. Here's one thing that I think we could improve on. You know, here's one thing that makes me feel upset when I see this happen. And maybe you don't know, but I want you to know that this is what I experience when you do this. So let's talk about that behavior. Not you as an individual, not you as a human being. I'm not attacking you. It's this thing over here. It's not me versus you. It's us in a team versus this thing that's distressing us. We're working together, right? We're trying to make this thing work. So, good people, how to be a better communicator. It starts off with being a great listener. Then you continue along with praising the things that you like and that you want to see continued. And finally, we have to address criticisms, things that we don't like, things that we disagree with. I think this band sucks. Well, interesting. That's actually my favorite band ever since I was younger. This can seem very uncomfortable. This can seem very strange. This can be extremely difficult, especially for people who aren't used to engaging in these sorts of behaviors. However, if you really take a step back and you look at the alternatives, be a good listener, talk all the time, give you praise when you deserve it, don't tell you how much I appreciate you, and have you risk leaving me thinking that your beautiful acts go unnoticed. So then you're less likely to do the things that I love about you. And finally, critiquing people or criticizing behaviors or things that happen that make you upset in the name of conflict resolution versus I'm going to avoid talking about conflict, and no matter what you do, no matter how much it pisses me off, whether you chew loudly, whether you throw your socks on the floor, whether you flirt with other women, whatever it is, I'm just not going to bring it up. for as long as I can, because that's what a good partner does. Let's see how far you go with that one. Thank you very much for listening, everybody. Stay safe and take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.